Hello everybody, my name is Nathan Powell and I am a registered behavior technician in Northern Virginia. I started in the special education field as a special education teacher in Tampa, Florida. I spent 3 years as a special education teacher, and when I moved to Virginia I became a registered behavior technician working with students with autism, much like I was doing with students with autism as a special education teacher. Now today I am going to talk to you guys about DRO. DRO is differential reinforcement of other behavior. So, DRO is one of 4 main forms of differential reinforcement. The forms of differential reinforcement are DRI, differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, DRA, differential reinforcement of alternate behavior, and DRL, differential reinforcement of low rates of behavior. During a DRO, you reinforce the absence of behavior rather than the occurrence of the behavior. When you have a behavior that you want to increase, you reinforce that behavior for that behavior to increase. Reinforcement is always about increasing the behavior that you want. Now, DRO, differential reinforcement of other behavior, is basically reinforcing every other behavior that isn't the behavior that's being targeted. So, with a DRO, you are reinforcing the absence of a behavior rather than a behavior. There are some things that you need to run a DRO. First, you need to know how often the behavior occurs, and how often the behavior occurs will give you a better picture of how to define the intervals that you'll be using to reinforce the behavior. So if a behavior is happening very often, you will have to have a very thin ratio of reinforcement, because the longer the reinforcement, the more likely they are to engage in the inappropriate behavior. So with the DRO, it's all about defining how often do you need to reinforce in order for the behavior not to occur with the DRO. So how often the behavior occurs affects how much that interval. So the interval reinforcement. So the more often the behavior occurs, the more often you'll need to reinforce it, and how the intervals will be made. Next, much like all ABA interventions, this is not a one-size-fits-all intervention. You have to vary it based on what the behavior is, what the client is. Steps in a DRO are defining the behavior, get baseline data, choose an interval to start with, reinforce, reset the time interval, and monitor progress. You need to do all of these things in order to maintain and intervene with a successful DRO.